And in the business that we're in, simply, you can't win without having the right people on the team. So that is incredibly important to us. And for some businesses, it's not their core competency. It's not what they focus on. It's, we're in the people business. So if we can't be better than our customers or competitors at keeping people retained in our organization, then shame on us. This is where we're the experts in the talent game.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Thanks for tuning in here to Grow Think Tank. Really excited about sharing this with you. And before you run, I have done so many interviews over the last few weeks. I have such an exciting time to share with you that those interviews have been organized into the 12 core principles of fast growth companies. So all you have to do to get that is go to genehammett.com/worksheet. So you can get the 12 principles, and I've been able to go in there and find which episodes will align to each individual episode. When you subscribe to Grow Think Tank, you will find exactly what you need so that you can move forward. And many of them haven't been published yet, depending on when you're hearing this, but you can tune in to the date that means the most to you. When you believe that your employees are critical to your success, you treat them differently. You treat the culture of the company differently than those that believe that the employees are just there to get the work done. Now, if you really believe that employees are the most important assets inside your company, today is a great episode for you, because I'm sitting here with Dan Foley. Dan is with Curate Partners, and they've grown at an astronomical rate. Number 20 on the Inc. 2018 list, growing at over 10,000% over a 3-year period, and the revenues are up to about 12 million. I'm looking down at my notes to make sure I get those numbers right, but I wanted to make sure you understood why they are growing so fast. And it's not because of the metrics and the strategies of growth. It's not necessarily because of their business model. It's because of the importance they put on the people. They really talk about people first. And that's one of the most important things I love about this interview is we talk about some of the common misnomers of leadership and about why putting people first is the right strategy today, tomorrow, and will always be the right strategy if you want to create a company that has a strong foundation of people. So here's the interview with Dan Foley with Curate Partners. Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm great, Gene. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I'm glad to have you here at the podcast. This is Global Think Tank. So we're going to talk to, I'll have to edit that out. This is Growth Think Tank. I have to, excited to talk to you about, what does it take to grow the business, to engage our people, to lead that kind of growth. And I'm really impressed what Curate Partners has done. Tell us a little bit about the company and about who you serve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. The company was founded about 5 years ago by 5 veterans that had all worked together for between 15 and 20 years. We had a lengthy career in the IT staffing and recruitment business. And what we saw was that corporate America was going to be going through all kinds of changes in the technology areas of their organization. So things like moving from a waterfall environment to agile. We saw opportunities in artificial intelligence, machine learning. We saw how important data was going to become to consumers and to customers. So many of the large organizations in today's world struggle to implement these new paradigms into their business model. And we thought there was a great white space for a consulting firm to come along and to be able to bridge the gap between legacy business models in this new paradigm of digital transformation. So we really work on helping companies bridge into digital transformation through the use of analytics, through the use of data, through new product launches. We have essentially 3 product lines. We do retained search for executive level people that need to help drive that change. We put together temporaries who help work on the projects, and we can actually put together project teams as well.
Awesome. Well, you work with a lot of companies that are growing as well. They may not be growing as fast as you. Is that true?
Oh, I'm sure, but no, we've had a good run in our first 5 years here. So
When you think about your level of growth and your client's level of growth, you've got both perspectives. The employee experience has probably got to be pretty high on the importance of getting that right as companies continue to meet market demand and continue to grow. Would you agree to that?
100%. In fact, the company was almost founded on that concept. I think personally, there's a very linear relationship between employee engagement and company growth. And so when we started the company, and my partners feel the same exact way, we felt it was an inside out strategy. We had worked with many of the people who work at our company now for years. We knew who the good ones were. We knew that they valued having leadership that was truly focused on the candidate or the employee experience, And so we are extremely focused on that. And, our belief is that an engaged employee leads to a true belief in the vision of the company and to the mission of the company. And from there, they're extremely focused on executing for our customers because they really want to stay within the organization. They want to grow within the organization. And I think it just allows us to execute better than many people in our space.
So I want to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page and aligned to this idea of employee experience. So what do you think are the core elements of employee experience?
I mean, from a simplest standpoint, I think one of them is just do employees believe in the vision or the mission of the company? Do they believe in the leadership of the organization? Are they interested in growing with the organization? Are they interested in helping develop the organization? Those are all the things that I think we're interested in terms of employee engagement. And we frankly want to hire the best people that we possibly can. And we want to give them an environment in which they never want to leave. And our hope is that we can create an environment where everybody wants to get in and nobody wants to leave. And we think if that happens, you get exceptional growth as a result.
So we kind of moved into this whole retention, and that really is, I think, the cornerstone of employee experience is retention. Why do you think so many companies, I would imagine you don't have this problem, but why do you think so many companies struggle with retaining talent?
Yeah, I think it's partly because maybe they're not giving enough credence to the importance of the employees, which is kind of crazy because there's no question we're in a war for talent. And in the business that we're in, simply you can't win without having the right people on the team. So that is incredibly important to us. And for some businesses, it's not their core competency. It's not what they focus on. It's, we're in the people business. So if we can't be better than our customers or competitors at keeping people retained in our organization, then shame on us. This is where we're the experts in the talent game. As someone once said to me, you don't want to go with a financial advisor who needs to take a bus to come see you. And, so we need to make sure that we've got the talent acquisition game right in our own backyard.
So they call that walking the walk, right? Walking the talk. I don't know how familiar you are with my research, but I've talked to over 100 leaders just like you in the last probably month. Before that, I talked to over 300 leaders in the last 2 years of Inc. 5,000 level companies. And I asked them one question. As a leader, what's more important, employees or customers? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. And if it's too cliche, I'd say both. As I said, we started with an inside out strategy, which is employee engagement. The company name, Curate, comes from the Latin word for to care. And when you translate it into the English pronoun, it means one who looks after souls. And I think that's how my partners and I view our leadership, that it should be servant leadership, that we don't look at it like people come here to work for us. It's almost like we're trying to create an environment in which we work for them. I think having said that, we also built the organization from the customer lens. And what we looked at was when we started the business is what drives a customer crazy about organizations that we compete against. And let's design an operating model that gets rid of all the friction. And so I think when we're selling to customers, we were able to use our decades of experience to eliminate all the pain points and to build a model that just eliminated that. And the results kind of speak for themselves.
Dan just talked about servant leadership. Do you really know what servant leadership is? And are you really walking the talk of servant leadership? If you are, then you know that it's making sure that you're removing the barriers for people to grow themselves. Now, one of the mistakes I see people make when they believe they're approaching servant leadership is that they're willing to solve problems for their employees. But I think servant leadership really is something you should look at, because it's not about solving the problems for them, removing those roadblocks, because I can see how that makes sense. But servant leadership really at the core is about how that person's growing. Are they growing in their confidence and courage level so that they can handle what comes up? Because that truly is serving them to the highest level, because they're growing as a person. Now think about that as you think about leadership. One of the things I work with my clients on is really helping them understand the style of leadership that is best for them and their company, and in different modes of growth, how to really figure out where to show up as a leader and how to show up as a leader. And that is really critical. So if you have any questions about that, make sure you reach out to me. Now back to Dan. Well, I take a hard stance on this, and I understand that it's a hard question between employee first or customer first, because it takes customers to grow the business. And if we don't have that, it's really, the employees are pointless and vice versa. But I do know that when you say the word care about people, if they feel cared for, they're going to want to care for the customers.
100%.
And so I think I think it edges out that. So the way I kind of phrase it is employee first, but customer centric.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good way to describe us. When we started the company 5 years ago, the first thing we did on day one, the very first thing we did was my partners and I, we sat in a room and we said, how do we want to be perceived? And who do we want to become when we grow up? And we weren't really talking about strategy or marketing. We were talking about the core values of our company and what were going to be the things that were going to differentiate us. And the very first thing we came up with was people first. And what that meant was we were never going to let numbers dictate whether someone had great performance. We were going to default to the employee first, and that we were going to build an employee-centric organization. To this day, we have the Curate 8. We throw out our core values on every single invoice that we send out. We put it in all our employee handbooks. And it starts right with people first, that we are in the people business. And if you don't know how to take care of people and provide a forum in which they want to work in, you may as well go home.
I think that really does align with what most of the Inc. leaders, and the reason why I love what I'm doing with this podcast is because so many people believe in people first. But the funny thing is the numbers with this group of people is astronomical. Your growth rate was number 20 on the 2008 list, or 2018 list. I'm sorry, over 10,000% over 3 years. Current, 2 years ago, or 2018, your revenues were like 12 million plus, and I'm sure they're higher now, right?
Yeah, suffice to say, almost 2x that. So,
so when you put people first and you don't focus on the numbers, all of a sudden you get the numbers. So it becomes the byproduct of the right core values and the right culture. When you think about, growing your business now, are you always in the meetings talking about put people first, or are the numbers also a part of that conversation?
No, I think, talk is cheap, right? And employees see through that. I think people first is really in our actions. Is how do we behave and act as a company? I talked earlier about employee engagement really revolves around getting employees bought into your strategy, to your mission, to your culture. And I think the other thing that we're always trying to do is to build trust with our employees and trust with our customers. That to me is the holy sacred ground, is when people believe, they develop trust. And when everybody has trust, when customers have trust in you, when employees have trust in you, you get to this sacred ground of growth. That's off the charts. It's better than any kind of market growth because it's so hard to replicate. And it really revolves around employees and customers believing and trusting in you. And that's what we're trying to get to almost every day.
Dan, I'd love for you to share with us some of the strategies you have of creating a great employee experience that we could learn from.
Yeah, well, I think that, the first thing is our importance that we put on it in the recruiting campaigns. We tend to ignore skills when people come in, and we look for character. We're looking for hardworking people who are competitive and who are full of values and want to grow. And it doesn't hurt to kind of have them have a desire to better themselves financially each and every year. From there, we want to help develop people into how they grow with the organization. We have a fairly ambitious charter to expand the business. And, our hope is that through our growth, we're going to keep opening new offices, opening new business lines, opening new product lines, and growing, developing, and promoting these people who have been with us. And I think then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. More people see the growth, more people want to get in on it.
Now that's a powerful statement there. Ignore the skills and focus on character. Think about that. How often are you looking at someone's resume and seeing if they have the skills to do the work that needs to be done for that job? I've made this mistake many, many times before. I've actually let that lead the process. But many of the Inc. 5000 leaders like you are really understanding that culture fit is so important. So you want to understand the values of that person. You want to have a sales or a recruiting process that actually lets you tune in to what is important to that person. Because if your values aren't aligned, then they won't be connected to the mission the way you want them to be. And eventually they'll become disengaged. Eventually they'll leave the organization, or worse, they'll actually take a paycheck and stay in the organization, but not really help you move forward the way you want to. You don't want that. That's very costly. So if you have any questions about really what that culture fit is and how do you change it, I've got a few tips I could share with you. Just reach out to me, Gene@genehammett.com. Now back to Dan. And I hear that a lot. I mean, is there anything specific you've done within development of people that you feel like makes it all work for you?
We've done some things, for example, and we felt this was kind of leading edge about 5 years ago, and I think there's more companies. We don't have a PTO policy. Our policy is if you need a vacation, you take one. And I think we treat people like adults. And if you're tired, if you're burnt out a little bit, you need some time to recharge the batteries, we support that 100%. I think we're also a little bit unique in the industry we're in is a very metric-driven industry, and we're actually not, which runs probably counterintuitive to what most people think. Now, we track metrics because they're important, but we believe that some companies take this to an extreme and start to make decisions just based on metrics. And that, to us, doesn't align with a people-first culture, people-first core values system. And I think people resonate with that because, some have worked for competitors and they've come here and they've seen there's a little bit of a different mindset. But I also think we try to serve them incredible leadership every day. I'm the CEO of the company. All my partners, we sit out on the floor, the sales and recruiting floor with all of our employees. We're in the thick of it with them. We don't sit in the offices and have them come in and see us and tell us how they're doing. We're helping them develop each and every day and gain new skills from our experience in the business. So those are probably just a couple things that I think of.
Are there any mistakes that you could share with us that you made in the early journey of this that you had to turn around and get right?
How much time do we have again?
Well, I know it hasn't been perfect, but what stands out to you?
Yeah, there's that expression, if you were perfect, I couldn't afford you. I think the biggest mistake I think we made was when we opened up the company, we had a really nice office in downtown Boston that was really expensive. And we thought we needed that to be credible. And I think we found out shortly thereafter that we really didn't need it. And that probably prevented us from hiring some people kind of early on, when I think if I had maybe kept the cost structure down when we first started the company, we probably could have grown a little bit faster. But, in the overall scheme of things, it wasn't such a big deal. And, of course, we've made other mistakes too, of course. I think we struggled a little bit with what our go-to-market strategy was when we first started. I think that that's probably pretty normal. And, we had some identity issues because we were getting pulled in some different ways. We've kind of battled through all those things, and, no regrets on where we've been.
When you think about like the evolution of culture and the employee experience, where do you see it going?
Rephrase the question a little bit for me in terms of what you're looking for.
Well, I'm just curious, like, what are the trends that you really think that we should be paying attention to as we're trying to take care of employees and put them first?
Well, I think you can't probably emphasize enough how important it is to attract and retain the right skill sets to your organization, whether that's at Curate or whether it's our clients or our competitors, frankly. And so I think companies should be paying an incredible amount of attention to this. And like I said, it's our core competency. So for us, it's a big deal. I think we continue to look at what are the newer things that we can offer to people that's going to put us in the most favorable light as we recruit against others in this war for talent. So I'm not sure that I have all the answers on where we're going to be, but I know this is if you provide the right culture, if you develop your people, if you treat them incredibly well, you're going to attract a lot of people to the company and you're going to do just fine.
Now, I want to ask you one final question, and this kind of gets to the heart of people. I was once in a room before, and I mentioned this is a leadership team, and I mentioned the importance of caring for your employees. And the CEO said, well, can you care too much? And I asked for more information and I kind of get an idea of like, he felt like he had been taken advantage of sometimes. So what do you think, what do you say to the question, can you care too much about employees?
I think you have to be mindful of the fact that it is a business and that you don't want a mentality where this is the country club that you come to every day. And I think there is a fine line there of if the business isn't taken care of, you really can't take care of employees in the future. So you do have to run it as a business. We haven't found that line yet where caring too much has negatively impacted, or we found, the inversion point for growth. So I'll let you know if we get there. But right now, I think we're doing our best to create that environment, and but we're also trying to, run a professional business here. And I think our employees totally understand the difference, and it's never been a problem for us.
I remember one of my responses back to this individual experience, and it really was, if you took care out of your workplace, what would you have? And he didn't have an answer for that. And I'm not asking you to answer today because I think that it really is a slippery slope into non-relevance because people will immediately check out mentally. The worst thing for them to do is not to leave the company. It's to stop working and still collect a paycheck, right?
Yeah, there's the expression, it's more detrimental to our company when they quit and stay.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you sharing with us the importance of employee experience and some of your insights, what you're doing. And I really appreciate this whole people first that you guys are standing behind, even in the face of an industry that's focused on metrics. That really is impressive to your growth. So thanks for being here at the Growth Think Tank.
Thanks so much for having me, Gene.
Wow, what a fantastic way to dive deep into the mind of someone who's growing really fast. Dan and I talked offline, really just love the importance that he puts on people. And if you probably believe the same thing too, if you're still listening to my voice after all this time, and people are the most important things. So I would love to connect with you about what you're getting out of this podcast or what you're getting out of from Growth Think Tank. And if you have any questions, make sure you email me, gene@genehammett.com. If you have someone that you can think of that would love this conversation, make sure you introduce them. Tell them about what value you're getting from Growth Think Tank. And that would be fantastic. So as always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.